This video is going to be another one of my stories from the ride, which is what I've titled the video log section of my channel. And this one will be pretty unique and it'll be pretty different from any other video that I've made, and definitely one of the most personal videos that I've made, because I'm doing this as kind of an encouragement video about overcoming physical setbacks. All of us in our cycling careers, so to speak, are going to go through times where we have an illness, an injury. Sometimes it may be minor, sometimes major, but something that sets us back, keeps us off the bike or whatever, keeps us from enjoying our sport of cycling. We see guys at the top of their game, either friends that you ride with who may just be doing really well in racing or just hammering mile after mile, or guys in the Tour de France. But what you don't see is the other side of when we go through frustrations of being injured. So I'm going to share a few stories of things that I've gone through and what I've learned by going through those, and hopefully it'll be an encouragement to you. The first one that I want to share is an issue that happened about 7 years ago, and I had to take some time off the bike for some minor surgery. I was off the bike for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. When I got back on, I was pushing really hard. It was in the middle of the summer, it was hot, came home, was mowing the grass. Because I had been off the bike, I wanted to really just mow the grass fast and keep my workout going, so to speak. And I was stepping kind of on a side hill and felt a pain in the side of my leg. And I didn't really think much about it. I kind of limped through finishing the grass. The next morning I tried to ride, and I couldn't ride more than about 30 minutes without having this pain. I thought it was my quad, but I realized later on in the week it was my IT band. And it wasn't one of those typical IT band issues where it's an overuse of just kind of slowly onsetting throughout an exercise. It was a sudden pain, so I definitely tore something or did something. And so, you know, I took some time off the bike, maybe 3 or 4 days, tried to ride again and couldn't ride. Just got pain. It kind of went down to the side of my knee, the typical classic IT band type symptoms. And so I would take like a week off, thinking surely this is going to help and I'll be fine. Couldn't ride. Would take 2 weeks off. Same thing, couldn't ride. And this was when I was gearing up for my mountain bike race season. I had to throw the whole season out the window. I'd been training for the season, and so I was obviously really frustrated with this. And I remember it was about 5 months later, I was at a cabin in the mountains for Christmas vacation with my family. Went on like an hour ride, and about 30-40 minutes into it, got the pain, could barely walk down the stairs that night, and I'm thinking, my cycling's over. I mean, I might as well sell my bikes, do something else that, you know, doesn't use my knee, and it's done. Fortunately, throughout that time, I learned how to stretch, how to ice a lot, and how to pray, and I was finally able to get back on the bike. In fact, there was an event coming up in January, and I just felt like I needed to step out in faith, sign up for the event. And I did it and was able to make it through about 35 miles of a 50-mile event, which I was happy with. And from there on, I was progressing. And so during that time, there was obviously moments where I was really down, and I felt like, again, I wouldn't be able to ride. So one thing that I want to encourage you all in is, when you go through stuff like this, know, number one, that it's not forever, but also maintaining a positive attitude is really helpful. During that time, I was able to focus more on other things, spend time with my family, but it really gave me a fresh perspective on life and where cycling fit into my life. And I realized, you know, as important as cycling is to me, it's not my foundation of my life. You know, my foundation is my family, my friends, my faith. So those are the things that are my foundation. Cycling is just the icing on it. It's a nice icing. I hope it stays there for a long time. But again, during that time, it helped me kind of refresh, and I learned how to do some things to avoid IT band syndrome. One is the stretching. But most importantly, and this I just really recently discovered about a year ago, because I've had some flare-ups since then, not near as bad, just where I'd had to take a couple of days off the bike. But I started strengthening my hips, and there's a website out there, strengthrunning.com. A guy has some TheraBand type exercises that strengthen your hips, and that did wonders for my IT band. So I used that setback to teach me new things about how to strengthen my body to avoid those things later. So that's one of the main things I want to leave with you in this video is when you go through something like this, use it to make you stronger, both mentally and physically, by learning ways, like if it's something like that, like a strain or that type of injury where you can do things to strengthen, that will really help you to avoid that injury. And when I came back from that, I was honestly, I felt like, if you're a racer, I felt like my whole season, like my whole life training was out the window by taking 5 months off the bike. A week off the bike as a racer, you feel like, you're not going to recover. 5 months off the bike, I was sure that I would never get back to the level that I was. I actually came back stronger than I was before. And so that showed me that having that mental break and physical break really helped me to get stronger through that incident. Something else that I went through that was a little scary, honestly, is about 5 or 6 years ago, I started having heart arrhythmias, and my heart would just get into this cycle where it would flutter, really high heart rate, and I would feel terrible. And so I went to the doctor and had a bunch of tests done. They couldn't find anything wrong. They said my heart looked healthy. In fact, on the treadmill, the doctor said I was one of the healthiest guys he'd ever seen. But I wore a Holter monitor, and it's something that you wear 24 hours a day for one whole day, and it monitors your heart, and you have this little recording device, and I actually even rode with the thing on a road ride. And finally they found something. They found, I forgot exactly what they called it, but I ended up having an EP study done, and that's different from a cardiac cath for heart disease or coronary artery disease. This is more on the electrical side. And it took them 5 hours to find a little spot next to my AV node, and they ablated it, and they were able to get rid of it. Now, looking back on that, I don't know if maybe it was an electrolyte issue, anxiety that I was going through, but because I did have that instance occur a couple more times after that, not near as severe. So it may have been physiological, I'm not sure, but that was a little scary. But fortunately it wasn't like a life-threatening thing, it was just an annoyance. But since then I've really focused on keeping my electrolytes balanced, using proper hydration and nutrition when I ride. So that's an instance that wasn't really an injury, but it was something that happened, but I determined that I was going to overcome it, and I did. And again, I learned to keep my life peaceful, try not to get anxious about things, and also with nutrition. About 3 years ago, I strained my back really bad working on a bike. For like hours I was hunched over, running cables and all this kind of stuff. I was building it from the ground up, and as I was doing it, my back just felt sore, but by that night I could barely move, and ended up getting like physical therapy, massages, and I had several people tell me that once you start having back problems, you'll always have them the rest of your life. And I absolutely refused to give into that. So what I did was I really focused on learning how to stretch my back and strengthen my back. I do things like planks, and I think they're called Roman chairs. It's like an inverted sit-up. We have a machine in my gym at work. So I used that instance to really teach me to do core strengthening and stretching so that I avoid that. And so really the positive thing for that is that I am doing things now that will hopefully keep my core strong, and I won't have issues like that later on. It took me over a year before I didn't have that lower back pain. It was right on my SI joint, and it was just almost debilitating at times. Today, I'm pretty much pain-free. I do things to avoid bending over and working on things. I'm real cautious about my back, but again, that circumstance gave me that perseverance and that knowledge to not go through something like that again. So that was my back issue. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was on a road ride with a small group, and the guy in front was a triathlete, and he wasn't really accustomed to leading a group ride. You know, triathletes usually ride by themselves, and there was a pothole in the road, a big pothole. I mean, probably like this big and probably this deep, and he didn't point it out. And I think I was right behind him. We're somewhere in the pace line, and I hit the pothole. And fortunately, I didn't go down, but I blew out both my tires, and my knee hit the stem. And you know, all of us, you know, bang our knees sometimes. It hurts like crazy for a few minutes, but you kind of walk it off. And this one, we kept riding. In fact, I think I rode another 40, 50 miles, and we pushed it really hard the rest of that ride. And the pain just would not go away. And it turned out I had a bone bruise on my kneecap. And that took me out of a lot of events that I've been training for. That was in early spring. And I had a lot of long gravel events that I was training for. I had to just throw them all out the window. And so that was one of those things that was just so frustrating, because I would ride for about 20, 30 minutes and just get this pain in my knee. Now the good thing about that is I was able to walk, I was able to hike, and so I did long hikes because it wasn't a deep knee bend like you get with cycling. So I used that to just help me get out and do something different. I went on hikes with my family, hikes with my wife, and so I focused on the positives and the things that I was able to do. And that's another thing that I want to leave you with is, when you go through things like this, focusing on the positive, having a thankful attitude is going to not only make you stronger, but also help you get through that better. If you read the Bible, there's a Proverbs 17:22 says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine." I really believe that having a positive attitude, focusing on the good things and being thankful, will physically help you recover. If you're down, you let yourself get depressed or bummed out, I think it's going to take you longer to recover. And it's easy for me to say that when I'm not going through a physical setback right now, but I really made myself learn how to have that positive, thankful attitude going through that. The final physical thing that I want to share that I've had to overcome is blood sugar issues. I today cannot eat any white sugar without it affecting me. And I think the reason that is because when I was a kid, I did not eat well. I ate a lot of sugar as a kid, and I think it affected me later on. Kind of in college, I started to develop hypoglycemia. And I cannot have any white sugar at all. It makes me feel terrible. It gives me a blood sugar crash. In fact, I had a chocolate bar like a couple weeks ago after my birthday. I got it for my birthday, and it was a low sugar one, but it was sweetened with either cane juice or white sugar, and I had a blood sugar crash after it, and it took me about 2 or 3 days to get over that. Every night I would get this blood sugar crash and just feel terrible and shaky. Now I can eat honey, brown rice syrup, agave nectar. Those things don't bother me. I can eat fruit, I do smoothies, but white sugar, so I have to totally avoid white sugar. Now the positive thing about that is I'm probably a lot healthier today than if I could just pig out on white sugar. And I'm not going to get really on a soapbox here, but I think white sugar causes a lot of health problems in our society today, especially like adult onset diabetes. So anyway, so that's something that I've really just had to learn how to eat right, how to keep. I eat every couple hours. So it's a physical challenge that I've had, but I've determined that I'm going to overcome it, and I've had a good attitude about it. Yeah, it's a bummer having to miss out on cheesecake or desserts or stuff like that, but it's just one of those things. I'm thankful for the health that I have, even though I can't have those things. Another kind of tip that I want to leave you with this video is, if cycling is your main thing, it's your main outlet, your physical outlet, the way that you enjoy the outdoors, like it is for me. And I've done a lot of sports over the years, a lot, and I've focused on those as I've done them, but cycling is the one that's stuck. So if it's your main thing, my recommendation is to not put it at risk by doing things that could cause you to be injured. For example, recreational basketball or recreational softball. Those are things that have high rates of injuries for ankles and knees, especially like an ACL. I've heard of so many guys blowing out their ACL just playing basketball. So, you know, I do other things, like I love camping and hiking and kayaking. I've even done a lot of scuba diving over the years. So I do things that are a lower injury risk, so that, you know, I would hate to just put all this preparation into a race season to have it be wiped out because of a silly injury that I could have avoided. So, you know, that's, again, that's a personal choice, but just kind of a recommendation that I have. Life really is learning how to overcome challenges. None of us are going to sail through life without any difficulties. And one of the benefits that we get from cycling is learning how to persevere and endure, whether it's pushing through pain, weather conditions, terrain, whatever. You know, today I did a 75-mile gravel ride, and it was hot. I pushed it fairly hard at some points in the ride, and the last hour I was hurting. I just had to endure and push through to get through with that ride. But those are the kind of things that you benefit from in cycling, learning how to push through things. You know, the benefits that we get are the health benefits, the emotional benefits, the relational benefits that we get from cycling are so worth not giving up. So another thing that I want to really encourage you in is, when you go through these physical setbacks, because all of us are going to have some kind of physical setback, major, minor, whatever, don't give up. Learn how, if you can, to make yourself stronger so you don't have those again. Use that opportunity to focus on different things in life that you may kind of put on the back burner, whether it's learning how to play an instrument or learning how to, you know, do something on the computer or spending time with people you don't normally get to spend time with. You know, use those things to give you a new perspective in life and to make you stronger. It does take perseverance. It does take having a positive attitude. But if you can do that, I really believe that you can come through that situation and be stronger. So I know this video was quite a bit different than a lot of my other videos. And just as a side note, I'm going through a move. We're building a house, and most of my stuff has been in storage for the last month and a half and will continue to be for another few weeks. So I'm not able to do my kind of reviews and maintenance type videos. So I'm doing these video logs to kind of fill in. So hopefully I helped you out with you know, encouragement, whether you are going through a physical setback or when you do encounter that physical setback. Hopefully this video will help you out. If it does, give it a thumbs up for me. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I really try to get to all of my comments, at least the ones that are rational comments. I try to get to them, so leave them below. Thanks for watching.